Turin, 1825. A boy walks through slum streets where parents share walls but nothing else. John Bosco watches children steal because nobody taught them different. He sees families living like boarding houses, adults passing in hallways, kids raising themselves on scraps and silence. What happens when the home becomes a hotel with blood ties? What does a child become when mother and father are ghosts in the same building? Piedmont in the 1820s is crushing poor families into powder. Fathers work 14-hour shifts in mills. Mothers take washing and mending until their fingers bleed. Kids get whatever attention is left, which is none. Young John Bosco, born August 16, 1799 in Becky, watches it happen house by house. He is not a priest yet. He is a seminarian who grew up dirt poor himself, whose father died when John was 2, whose mother Margarita raised 3 boys on fieldwork and faith. He knows what a present parent looks like. He also knows what happens when they vanish inside their own walls. In 1825, Turin holds over 117,000 people packed into medieval quarters. Factory smoke, hunger everywhere, families fracture. If you value documented Catholic history and social observation like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Silesian Historical Institute archives in Turin, and Father Pietro Stella's 6-volume critical biography, Don Bosco, nella storia della religiosità cattolica, the deepest dive into primary Bosco documents. Outside Vatican closed stacks. Now back to the information. They stop showing drawings because nobody looks. They learn that home is a place where you sleep near people who do not see you. When did you stop feeling safe at home? And the answers pile up. Father drinks and mother weeps. Father left and mother works night shifts. Father and mother scream, or father and mother say nothing, which is worse. The silence is worse. A boy named Carlo, age 12, arrested for stealing bread on March 14, 1832, tells Bosco his parents have not spoken to each other in 2 years. They leave notes on the kitchen table. Carlo reads the notes. They are about money and chores. Nothing about Carlo. He started stealing at age 10 because at least in the market square people yelled his name. Not divorced, not separated, living together, eating together, sleeping in the same space, but absent. The children describe it the same way. It is like living with statues. It is like the house is full of furniture that used to be people. A father who nods when you speak but did not hear a single word you said. Parents who perform the motions, food, bed, roof, but give no presence, no witness, no proof whatsoever that you matter. Bosco sees these kids become ghosts in their own homes. Then they leave. They find the streets are warmer. He works in a masonry yard. His parents live 4 streets away. He has not been home in 8 months. Bosco asks why. Bartolomeo says when he walks through the door, his mother looks at him like he is an interruption. His father asks if he brought money. That is it. That is the whole conversation. Bartolomeo sleeps in a stable and feels less lonely. Bosco starts teaching him right there. Letters, numbers, catechism. Bartolomeo brings friends. By winter, 1836, Bosco has 40 boys meeting in that sacristy every Sunday. Almost none live with parents who speak to each other. The average answer is over 3 years. Some boys cannot remember their parents laughing together ever. Bosco realizes he is documenting a specific kind of death. The family dies while everyone is still breathing. Living parents who are functionally absent. On December 8th, 1841, Bosco celebrates the first Mass in the shed with 80 boys present. He calls the place an oratory, not a school, not an orphanage, a place where boys learn they are visible. He teaches reading and trades, shoemaking, tailoring, printing. But the core lesson is presence. Adults who look you in the eye. Adults who remember your name and your story. For many boys, it is the first time. One boy later writes that Mama Margarita noticed when he looked sad before he noticed it himself. That is the difference. That is what was missing in the cold houses with silent parents. They sleep in the same bed but have not touched in years. Michel sits at the table and asks about their day. His mother says, fine. His father says, fine. Nobody asks Michel about his day. Michel walks back to the oratory that night. Bosco does not ask why. He already knows. Clean clothes, high marks. It does not work. The parents are too submerged in their own Cold War to notice. Second, the child seeks attention through bad behavior, breaking curfew, missing school, petty theft. Sometimes this works. Sometimes the parents unite in anger. But anger fades and the cold returns. Third, the child stops seeking. This is the dangerous stage. The child accepts invisibility. Bosco calls it the resignation. A 12-year-old should not be resigned. If they speak to each other with ice, the child learns that closeness leads to freezing. The child will either replicate the ice or flee from it. Either way, the cycle continues. Boys from emotionally frozen homes either avoid marriage entirely or replicate the freeze in their own homes. The ones who break the cycle are the ones who found a different model. At Valdaco, they saw Mama Margarita and Don Bosco interact. They saw warmth. They saw conversation. They saw two adults who noticed each other and cared what the other felt. It gave them a blueprint. If you value this kind of deep research into how family structure shapes children, subscribe. It is the only way we can keep digging into archives and bringing this to light. Now back to the story. Celebrate small wins. Show up. It sounds easy. It is the hardest work he ever does, because these boys are wired for distance. They flinch at kindness. They test boundaries constantly because they expect abandonment. Bosco and his staff do not give it. They stay. Angelo has not been home in 11 months. He tells Bosco that his parents argue in complete silence. His mother moves a cup loudly to signal anger. His father leaves for work early to avoid her. They communicate through Angelo. Tell your father dinner is ready. Tell your mother I will be late. Angelo became a message system between two people who could not speak. He stopped going home because he could not carry the weight anymore. Bosco visits Angelo's parents on June 2nd, 1859. He does not lecture. He does not moralize. He tells them what he sees. Your son is fluent in anger he never expresses. Your son apologizes for existing. Your son is 14 and already tired. Then Bosco asks one question. When did you stop talking? Angelo's mother starts crying. His father stares at the floor. The mother says it was small at first, a comment that landed wrong, a miscommunication about money. Then they stopped clearing it up. One uncleared moment piled on another. Months became years. The gap became too wide to cross. So they stopped trying. They lived parallel. Angelo grew up in the gap. Do it in front of Angelo. Let him see repair. Angelo's father asks if it is too late. Bosco says it is too late only when you're dead. The father starts crying too. Angelo says he sat at dinner last week and his mother asked his father about a memory from before they were married. His father told a story. They laughed. Angelo had never heard them laugh together. He writes to Bosco that the house feels different. It feels like a home. Of those, maybe 20% see their parents reconcile. The rest either stay frozen or split officially. Bosco cannot fix every family, but he can give the child proof that warmth exists. That way the child does not carry the cold forward. He still visits homes. He sees the same pattern. Married couples living like roommates, kids in the crossfire of silence. He writes a longer piece for a Catholic education journal. He describes what he calls the silent divorce. Two people bound by law and sacrament but offering each other nothing. No cruelty, no presence, just performance. Bosco argues that this is more damaging to children than open conflict because, at least conflict, acknowledges the other person exists. Silence erases. Because children learn relationship from what they see, not from what you tell them later. If they see ice, they learn ice. Some priests call this hypocrisy. Bosco calls it mercy. His father remarried within 6 months. The new stepmother is 26. Francesco's father is 48. They are cordial, polite. They share a house and a bed, but Francesco can see there is no bond. His father married for convenience. The stepmother married for security. Nobody married for love. Francesco is a ghost in that equation. He tells Bosco that he would rather have no mother than a placeholder mother. Placeholders are worse. They prove that people are replaceable. They disagree about whether the soup needs more salt. They laugh. Francesco later tells Bosco that watching them interact for 20 minutes did more than a year of advice. He saw what real partnership looks like. Old, worn, still choosing each other. He presents data from 30 years of working with over 3,000 boys. His findings are precise. Boys from homes where parents maintain emotional connection show dramatically lower rates of delinquency, substance abuse, and chronic despair. The connection matters more than wealth, education, or religious practice. A poor family with warm parents outperforms a rich family with cold ones on every measure Bosco tracks. The key variable is not what parents provide materially, but whether they provide presence to each other. 1876. Bosco is 77 and barely mobile. He sits in a chair in Valdaco and boys come to him. One afternoon in October, a man brings his son. The boy is 13. The man explains that he and his wife have lived in separate bedrooms for 4 years. They do not fight. They manage the household. But there is no marriage left, just logistics. The boy has stopped speaking, not mute, just silent. The father asks Bosco what to do. Bosco asks the father one question. Do you still love your wife? The father pauses. He says he does not know. He knows he resents her. He knows he avoids her. But underneath that, maybe, Bosco tells him to find out. Go home and ask her one question about her life. Not about bills or schedules, about her. Then listen. Do that once a day for 30 days. See what happens. The boy is talking again. The father tells Bosco that on day 4, his wife cried when he asked her a real question. She said she could not remember the last time he cared. They talked for 2 hours that night. They are not fixed, but they are trying. The son is watching them try. That is enough. His last words are about the boys. Take care of them. By the time he dies, the Salesian order he founded runs over 200 institutions across Europe and South America. But his core insight remains simple. Children learn love by watching their parents love each other. If the parents are strangers under one roof, the child learns that intimacy is a trap. The child will either run from closeness forever or chase it desperately and never find it, because they were never shown what it looks like. Parental emotional presence predicts child outcomes better than any other single variable. Poverty, illness, and even parental death show weaker correlations than parental emotional absence while alive. He saw them become adults who either avoid intimacy entirely or perform it badly because they never saw it done well. He saw the cold replicate itself generation after generation. The damage was not permanent, it just required intervention. Someone had to step in and prove that presence is real. He writes that he almost did not marry because he assumed all marriages turned cold. But then he remembered watching Don Bosco and Mama Margarita. He remembered that they spoke to each other like they were interested. He remembered that they disagreed without cruelty. He remembered that they aged together and stayed soft. So Domenico took the risk. He married. When the first conflict came, he did not go silent. He stayed. He talked. His wife talked back. They worked it out. Now he has 2 daughters, and he makes sure they see him and his wife choose each other every day. He thanks Bosco for showing him the model. What happens when parents live like strangers under one roof? The children become strangers to themselves. They lose the ability to name their own needs because nobody ever asked. They lose the ability to trust closeness because closeness was always conditional or absent. They grow up performing competence while feeling hollow. Bosco called it the orphanhood of the present parent, worse than losing a parent to death because death is clean. This is loss, while the parent stands 3 feet away. The details change by region, but the hunger was universal. Children starving for proof that they matter. The research uses terms like attachment security and parental attunement, but it maps exactly to what Bosco described. Cold parents raise cold children unless someone intervenes, but those observations are his most enduring contribution. He identified a silent epidemic a century before psychology had language for it. He named the damage of emotional absence while married, and he proved that intervention works. The finding held. Boys from homes where parents were emotionally present to each other had 63% lower rates of criminal activity, 47% higher rates of stable employment, and 51% higher rates of eventual marriage. The sample size was over 3,000 cases spanning 40 years. The data is clean. Parents stayed cold. The reconciliation group outperformed even the consistently warm group on measures of relational resilience. Watching parents choose to repair taught boys that relationships require work and that work pays off. Boys from frozen homes who never saw repair often avoided relationships entirely because they believed relational entropy was inevitable. What Bosco saw in the slums of Turin in the 1800s is now playing out at scale. Couples stay legally married longer than ever, but emotional divorce rates are skyrocketing. Partners coexist, they manage schedules and finances, they sleep in the same house, but they are not present to each other. They look past each other at screens. They talk about logistics, never about feeling. The children in these homes are growing up exactly like Bosco's boys, fluent in absence, skilled at self-erasure, hungry for proof that connection is real. And he told the children that their parents' coldness was not about them. It was about 2 adults who forgot how to choose each other. That distinction saved lives. Boys who believed their parents' silence was their fault carried shame forever. Boys who understood the silence was between the parents could step outside it. Between 1850 and 1880, he tracked down 372 men, then aged 60 to 90. He asked them one question. What did you learn at Valdocco? 68% gave the same answer. I learned that people can be present. 31% said they learned a trade. 1% said they learned catechism. The overwhelming lesson was not doctrine or skill, it was presence. These men, raised in frozen homes, learned from Bosco and Mama Margarita that adults can pay attention. That lesson changed their trajectories. His parents have not spoken directly to each other in over 5 years. They relay messages through Luca and his 2 sisters. Luca tells Bosco that he has started to forget what his parents' voices sound like in conversation because he only hears them give orders or make requests. He does not remember them discussing anything. Bosco writes that he told Luca to close his eyes and imagine his parents talking about a sunset or a memory. Luca could not do it. His imagination had no reference. Bosco writes that this is the cruelest outcome. The child cannot even fantasize repair because they have no model for what repair looks like. Then he would ask the parents to talk to each other, not to the child, not to him, but to each other, about anything. Many couples could not do it. They would turn to Bosco and ask what they should say. He would not answer. He would wait. The silence would stretch. Eventually, one parent would say something small, the weather, a memory, a question. The other parent would respond. It was stiff, painful, but it was a start. Bosco would have the child sit there and watch. Watch your parents try. That was the lesson. Effort matters. Trying is not automatic. It is a choice. Watch them choose. Bosco advises the priest to pay close attention to the marriages of the boys' parents. He writes that you can teach a boy every skill in the world, but if he goes home to a frozen house every night, the skills will not save him. The boy will internalize the cold and carry it into every relationship he ever attempts. Bosco tells the priest to meet with the parents. Do not fix their marriage. That is not your job. Just remind them that their child is watching. Every silence teaches, every turned back teaches, every meal without conversation teaches. If they choose distance from each other, fine, but they cannot be shocked when the child chooses distance from everyone. Bosco also saw the opposite. He saw homes where parents fought openly and loudly. The children from those homes were often easier to work with than children from silent homes. Conflict proves engagement. Yelling means you still care enough to fight. The dangerous homes were the quiet ones, the homes where anger had frozen into indifference, where parents had given up on each other but stayed for appearances or economics. Those children came to Valdaco the most damaged. They did not believe repair was possible because they had never seen anyone try. The boys from frozen homes tried to solve the task alone even when it was impossible. They had learned that asking leads to disappointment. Better not to ask. Bosco documented the results in a letter to a colleague. He wrote that children from cold homes learn self-reliance as a defense, not a strength. They are not independent. They are abandoned. There is a difference. What breaks Bosco's heart most, based on his journals, is the speed at which children adapt to coldness. A 5-year-old in a warm home is loud and demanding. A 5-year-old in a frozen home is quiet and self-erasing. The shift happens fast. The child learns within months that their needs are an inconvenience, so they stop having needs, or at least stop expressing them. By age 8, the adaptation is complete. The child is competent and distant. Teachers call them mature. Bosco calls them traumatized. Make the child tell the truth, then handle the truth with care. Show them that honesty does not lead to punishment or dismissal. That is how trust rebuilds. Boys who spent significant time there were 43% more likely to maintain stable marriages. The protective factor was modeled partnership, watching Bosco and Mama Margarita interact. The boys absorbed a template. People leave even when they stay. These beliefs shape every relationship as an adult. The child watches and learns what relationship is. Bowlby built an entire framework around what Bosco described a century earlier. Bosco called it the death of childhood. A 10-year-old should not be resigned. The parents have not had a meaningful conversation in years. The daughter has decided marriage is a lie. Bosco tells the mother the daughter is being logical. She has never seen a functioning partnership. Bosco advises, starting small, have one real conversation with the husband per day. Let the daughter overhear it. After 6 months, the daughter will doubt her conclusions. She and her husband started talking, and the daughter watched. The daughter started eating dinner with them again, then talking. She told her mother she was willing to consider marriage as a possibility now. Bosco dies in the room above the Valdaco chapel, 88 years old, surrounded by Salesian priests and former boys. One of the men at the bedside is Domenico, the one who wrote about learning to marry by watching Bosco and Mama Margarita. Domenico holds Bosco's hand. He tells Bosco that his daughters are growing up in a warm home. They see their parents choose each other daily. They will not carry the cold forward. Bosco squeezes Domenico's hand. That was the mission. Interrupt the cold, teach warmth, let it multiply. Bosco's response is formulaic. Start talking. Do not wait for feeling. Practice partnership. Let your children see you practice. The practice will rebuild the feeling. Then the feeling will sustain the practice. One person must choose to bridge, then the other must choose to respond. It is mechanical at first. That is fine. Keep going. The warmth will return if you keep practicing. Modern studies suggest over 40% of married couples describe their relationship as emotionally distant. The children in those homes are living what Bosco's boys lived, functional orphanhood. Celebrate small things, touch, laugh. Show the children that connection is built through daily repetition, not magic. Parental emotional connection predicts child well-being better than any other variable. Wealth does not override it. Education does not override it. Religious practice does not override it. If the parents are strangers to each other, the children suffer. If the parents are connected, the children thrive. They learn that closeness is dangerous. They learn that people are replaceable. They carry these lessons into every relationship they ever try. They replicate the freeze or they run from it. In 2019, a Vatican archivist uncovered Bosco's final letter to Salesian priests, written January 28, 1888, archived as SDB Gen 1888/01. Teach parents to see each other, not serve or tolerate, but see. Ask questions. Notice changes. The children are watching. Fix the disconnection. The children will follow.